So, the FNaF Ultimate Guide came out just about a week ago, and it actually came with quite a few interesting lore reveals. Some may believe this book may not be trustworthy since this book is an iteration of the Freddy Files, and seemingly the final one, but this book clearly seems to be trustworthy based on the fact that this one was actually made with care. The description is a little bit different than the previous two, as it's stated to have information from the, quote, Fazbear archives. So this means that in this book there will be clearly reliable information. And like I said, this one was actually made with care and is clearly much more up to date. This book literally calls out things that we should look into. And the mic trap theory section in the search location chapter is actually gone from the book. Instead of just being a repeat of the first and second Freddy Files with some new information, this one removes parts that are no longer relevant, and even in earlier sections references future things that are relevant. This book seems to have removed the mic trap section because while it made sense back then to be included considering it was a popular theory, it doesn't make sense to be included now, and Scott himself debunked it. And this book even talks about Springtrap being William at certain points, and so casually. But anyway, before we actually start, I want to give a spoiler warning just in case you want to learn all this stuff for yourself. I'm going to be making multiple videos on this book. This video will just be about chapter 1, which is about FNaF 1, and there's some interesting things to talk about here. So now, let's just get straight into it. First up, we actually have a couple confirmations about Mike Schmidt, the security guard of FNaF 1. It is specifically called out that a lot of people believe Mike Schmidt is Mike Afton, but it's also stated that people connect him to Mike from FNaF 4, who seems to be Michael Afton. I find it weird that this is called out here since Michael's name wasn't specifically called out until sister location, so this does confirm that one of the FNaF 4 brothers is Mike, considering Mike is apparently in FNaF 4. Obviously, we already knew this, and it doesn't point to either specific one, but future parts of the book certainly do. We also get a kind of hilarious confirmation that Mike tampering with the animatronics in Custom Night is actually not him trying to figure anything out. The tampering is actually, funnily enough, literally just the night customization. He's tampering with the animatronics 8 AI to alter their aggression level. This also kind of confirms that Golden Freddy isn't a ghost, but rather a projection from a physical suit, since Golden Freddy in FNaF 2 is customizable for Custom Night, so Mike is able to tamper with Golden Freddy in FNaF 2. And to do that, it means he has to be tampering with a physical suit. The reason I find this to be funny is because we've always been looking for reasons Mike may have been tampering with the animatronics, whether he's trying to destroy them or free the souls. But all this time, the tampering was just him customizing the animatronics AI. But this also brings up a bigger question. Why is he doing this? Is he so confident that he's trying to give himself a challenge? Why? Does he want to die, maybe? That doesn't make sense because he hasn't fulfilled his redemption arc yet. So what exactly is he doing this for? Let me know in the comments why you guys think he's doing this, because honestly, I don't really know. We also get a bit of information on the phrase, "It's me." The important thing here is that it's mentioned that "It's me" in Curse of Dreadbear is alluding to William Afton. A lot of people are now saying this confirms Golden Freddy isn't returning, but I don't understand this logic honestly, because this can easily be explained. FNaF VR takes place after Ultimate Custom Night, and William is trying to make a grand return. It's entirely possible that Golden Freddy saying "It's me" really is alluding to William Afton, because this is really hinting that Golden Freddy is returning to stop William Afton, and this confirms that Glitch Trap is the real William. So this technically really would be alluding to William Afton. But we also do still get the confirmation that multiple different characters do say "It's me." It's not only Golden Freddy. Seeing the phrase in other places besides FNaF 1 is definitely alluding to Golden Freddy. It is his signature phrase, but in FNaF 1 at least, he isn't the only one who says it. In the mapping of the animatronics movements, we get the confirmation that Golden Freddy is actually always in the office, just invisible. Or rather, like we stated earlier, since Golden Freddy is a physical suit, his projection only appears in the office. And this also debunks the theory that Golden Freddy is in the kitchen, since he always stays in the office and he's not in the kitchen on the map. But even more interestingly, if you zoom in on Golden Freddy's face on this map, you can see that he's actually wearing a purple hat. This, as well as stuff we see later in the book, which I'll talk about in future videos, confirms that Golden Freddy and Fredbear are actually one and the same. Obviously they can't be the same suit. We see that they both exist separately at the same time, through the fact that Golden Freddy is at Freddy's at the same time Fredbear is at Fredbear's, but they still are the same character. Golden Freddy is just a separate suit from Fredbear, but still a version of Fredbear. Okay, so now that we know It's Me is used by different characters and that Fredbear is Golden Freddy, let's go back to the page talking about It's Me. This page actually mentions the teasers for FNaF 4 where the Nightmare animatronics ask, "Was it me?" This is referring to the Bite of 83, obviously, as we know. But the final one of these teasers is of Fredbear, where it says, "Or was it me?" Since this is referring to the bite, we know it obviously was Fredbear, but since this is connected to the It's Me phrase, it could imply that the It's Me phrase actually is more exclusive to Golden Freddy. But more than that though, this could further imply that the bite victim is Golden Freddy, which is already confirmed later in the book, but still I'll explain. Since Fredbear, who did the bite, isn't the same as Golden Freddy who says it's me, that means Nightmare Fredbear being tied to this phrase means the phrase of It's Me can't technically be coming from Fredbear himself. It seems to be actually coming from the bite victim. This means that the bite victim himself is Nightmare Fredbear, which also even further confirms that Mike is the FNaF 4 player, which has already been a fact for years, but still most people don't believe it for some reason. I don't know why, but anyway, what I'm saying is that "Was it me?" is referring to the bite of 83. "Was it me?" is referencing the It's Me phrase, but since it can't be from Fredbear, it has to be from the bite victim because he was the only other character involved in the bite besides Mike and his friends. And obviously they aren't Golden Freddy. So this means that the bite victim is Golden Freddy. I may have explained this in a confusing way, sorry about that, but hopefully you understand what I mean. But if not, whatever, I'll elaborate more on the bite victim being Golden Freddy in a future video. Next up, we have a very interesting confirmation, and this is actually the thing that I'm going to focus on the most for this video. This book confirms that there was actually a third missing children's incident. The third missing children's incident took place at the FNaF 1 location, and it really not had a huge effect on the timeline, but it does give an explanation for something we always knew happened in the lore. It does affect a little bit, but it doesn't drastically change much. This gave an explanation to something we should have known, but no one really took notice to. Well, except me. It's also hinted at briefly in the FNaF 2 section. I'm not going to talk too much about that for this video because I wanted to discuss the FNaF 2 section for its own video, but this does tell us something about this. Here's a quote from the FNaF 2 section of the book, talking about the minigames. On one final disturbing note, the models for the children are different from game to game, supporting theorists' claims that there could be 4 unique sets of victims. 4 unique sets of victims. There's 4 minigames in FNaF 2, one for each set of murders that means. Technically with what it's referring to, Charlotte, or the puppet, counts as her own set. And since the other 3 minigames each have 5, that adds up to 16 victims in total. But the thing is that actually lines up absolutely flawlessly with what we see in Happiest Day. Let me explain. Each balloon in Happiest Day is meant to represent a child's soul. We know this from the fact that they rise up to symbolize the spirit's souls being set free. Now I'm going to blow your mind. Before the Ultimate Guide, we only knew of 11 murders. The original MCI, or Missing Children's Incident, the Save Them Massacre, and Charlotte's death. So it may surprise you to find out that there are 16 total balloons in Happiest Day. Yeah, 16 spirits are present in Happiest Day. The 11 we know of, and 5 extra that we just don't. But now we do. There was a Missing Children's Incident in the FNaF 1 location, filling in that missing gap that has been burning a hole in my mind for the past few months, I think. And when I say past few months, it's definitely been longer than that. I'm just not sure exactly when I noticed this. But another thing is that on a page talking about why Foxy was out of order, it's implied that maybe Foxy's area being out of order and separate from the other animatronics was actually a way to make children curious and lure them toward the area so they could be easily captured. This could be how the FNaF 1 murders took place. But now you're probably wondering, if these kids died, who do they possess? What are they for? Well, I have an interesting theory, and I think it actually lines up perfectly with the timeline. So since there's an MCI in the FNaF 1 location, it's safe to say that the newspapers in FNaF 1 are actually referring to the murders in the FNaF 1 location and not the original MCI. This actually clears up a little bit. It would explain why Fazbear Entertainment continued using the animatronics even after they had blood and mucus pouring out of them. The simple reason is that they didn't. That happened to different animatronics, not the core 4, or 5 if you include Golden Freddy, but he's not really a mascot at FNaF 1. But anyway, it would also make it possible that the MCI all happened in the same day. We know for a fact that they were lured separately, but it is now possible for the MCI to be on the same day because the newspapers wouldn't go against that anymore. And finally, it's possible that the MCI wasn't actually on June 26th. In fact, in the novel trilogy, it actually wasn't. It was in July. Granted, it was also in 1985 in the novels, and I honestly doubt it was in 1985 in the games, but it still was in July. It could also be possible that the MCI was in Fall Fest 83. We've had this information for so long, but no one has put it together until now. And yeah, I think that's everything for the video. Oh wait, sorry, no. I didn't even tell you what happens to these kids. Well, take another look at Happiest Day. We see the original MCI, we know Save Them is present, but there's other 5 kids that are just the odd ones out. And these kids are wearing masks of the Mediocre Melodies. Could this mean that the Mediocre Melodies are possessed by these 5 kids? And I know what you guys are gonna say. Not much really implies that. Well, besides what I just said. And also, if they were possessed, wouldn't they be a part of paragraph 4 in FNaF 6? Well, the simple answer is that, similarly to the toys, the Mediocre Melodies were scrapped after having blood and mucus come out of their eyes and mouths, like we hear in the FNaF 1 newspapers. And then they could have been rebuilt sometime around FNaF 6. That would also explain why Nedbear replaces this random blue one. The blue one was most likely an original Mediocre Melody, but for whatever reason he was never used again and replaced by Nedbear. The blue one could also probably be referenced by one of Mr. Hippo's stories in Ultimate Custom Night.
If you try to read into every little thing and find meaning in everything anyone says, you'll just drive yourself crazy. Had a friend do it once. Wasn't pretty, we talked about it for years.
Obviously that isn't what happened to this robotic fake animal animatronic, but it could certainly be a reference to how he was scrapped at a certain point. You may also say that we wouldn't know the FNaF 1 animatronics were possessed if the newspapers were for the other animatronics. But the thing is, back around FNaF 4 or Sister Location or something, Scott admitted that he had done one small retcon in his series that fit in pretty seamlessly. And I think there's a good chance that this could actually be the retcon. You see, by the time of FNaF 4, we knew the Mediocre Melodies existed from Happiest Day, so we could have realized that they were their own animatronics and were possessed by then. And we already knew of the first MCI and knew they possessed the original animatronics. We knew of Save Them and Charlotte. We knew who all of them possessed. We knew everything we needed to know about the murdered children. So that retcon would have fit in seamlessly. Or it was never retconned and it was just partially planned ahead of time. But there's one other thing that we are missing. One more thing, we need to just nail this thing inside the coffin. That sounds wrong. That sounds really wrong. But you wouldn't know what I mean. All we're missing is just one thing to connect the Mediocre Melodies to the FNaF 1 location, because right now we don't actually have anything to prove that they were in the FNaF 1 location to be possessed by these animatronics. But actually, there is. The final missing link to nail this theory in the coffin... Damn it, I can't say that without laughing, god damn it. But I mean, the final piece of evidence for this theory to link it up and actually have it make sense comes from Ultimate Custom Night. This game is one of my favorite FNaF games, and it was made to kind of wrap up the story. But we all know how that went, obviously. But even still, this game gave us the missing piece of this theory. The Mediocre Melodies are super easy to deal with in this game, especially Pigpatch, Happy, Frog, and Mr. Hippo. So it's actually really hard to die by them. But if somehow you do die by Mr. Hippo, you're greeted by this.
My friend, you have met a terrible, terrible demise. But, you know, I don't feel too bad about it. After all, if it weren't from me, it would have just been from someone else, you know? I guess what I'm trying to say is life...
No, not his
life
story.
Goes on.
No, you're greeted by this jump scare. Did you see it? How about that time? Let me slow it down for you. You saw it, right? You had to have seen it at this point. He has a FNaF 1 endoskeleton. This means that the Mediocre Melodies were most likely in the FNaF 1 location, but then scrapped, leaving only the core 5 that we all know and love. There being 16 victims killed by William fits in with everything. It fits with the FNaF 2 minigames all being based around different events. It fits with there being murders in FNaF 1. It fits perfectly with Happiest Day and having 16 balloons and the mediocre melodies. It even explains why there's 16 tapes to summon Glitchtrap in FNaF VR, because Glitchtrap is William and he killed 16 kids. In the Princess Quest minigame, there's 16 torches representing the 16 tapes, but what people seem to ignore is that 6 of the torches were based around the original 6 victims, as you can see with the graves, the original MCI, and Charlotte. This seems to indicate that all the torches have something to do with William's victims. I was told that there's actually 21 total, and the 6 that represent the core 5 or 6, I mean, were actually separate. I'm not sure if that's true, but if it is, that part kind of goes out the window, but it's still possible that it's supposed to be like connected, referencing it. But again, I could be wrong.
If you try to read into every little thing and find meaning in everything anyone says, you'll just drive yourself crazy.
No, Mr. Hippo, shut your mouth. You can't be the one to say this when your jump scare literally has a crucial detail inside your mouth. God damn it, that sounds wrong. But hey, that's just a theory. A game theory. That's not my line. But if you did enjoy this video, please do leave a like and subscribe. I'm 100% going to be doing more videos on the Ultimate Guide discussing any and all lore that we get in the book, so stay tuned for that. And Security Breach is only a couple days away at this point, and I'm going to be live streaming it the day it comes out, probably around 4 PM EST. So stay tuned, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye guys.